Okay. You can start us off, Rosemary.
Yeah, okay, all right. So welcome to the June 3rd meeting of the Rochester Environmental Commission. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, REC meetings are being held virtually and no in-person attendance is permitted. The Rochester Environmental Commission is an advisory committee that reviews projects that are classified as type 1 under New York State seeker requirements. REC then issues a recommendation to the lead agency. So if we could go around the virtual room and introduce ourselves, that would be great. I'll start. I'm Rosemary Jonitz. I am the chair of the REC.
I'm Tom Kisior. I'm the staff to the REC and the zoning office.
Okay.
I'm Bob Schellinger. I'm a commission member.
I'm Elizabeth Primus. I'm a commission member.
Carlos Perez, commission member.
I'm Jeff Morozak. I'm the senior landscape architect for the city of Rochester and the project manager for the Ready projects that we're here to talk about today.
Okay. All right. So according to our agenda, the first thing to talk about is any reports that come from the chair, and I have no reports today. Are there any staff reports for the commission?
Nope, no staff reports.
Okay. All right. So, and we have no old business to review, so we'll move right into our first referral.
All right. Once again, my name is Jeff Morozak. I'm the senior landscape architect with the city and the project manager for these New York State Ready grant funded projects. There's actually two separate projects in front of you today. Ready grants on the west side of the river. And there's two projects there combined into one, and then an additional two projects on the east side of the river combined into one project. It's actually 4 grants from the state, and we've combined them into east side, west side, presented to you as separate projects, but being run as one larger project. And also online with me are Mike Manning and Kyle Bulow from Rambo. They are our primary design consultant on the project, and they've been with us from the start on these projects. So the Ready projects in general, state-funded projects, kind of grew out of some of the extreme high water events up at the, along Lake Ontario in 2017 and 2019 that resulted in, some pretty significant flooding and damage to private property, public property, and right away as well. And the state opened up, I think it was a $300 million grant project that municipalities could apply for. And the city applied for 2 projects on the west side of the river. We received both of those. That's why we're here today. And then the county and town of Irondequoit applied for projects on the east side of the river. And they received those grants, and they asked the city to run those grants for those projects for them. So we're taking on all 4 projects and, working in partnership with the county and the town to implement the east side projects. The west side are straightforward city projects. So the west side projects start at the foot of Petton Street and extend north to the former CSX swing bridge embankment. So there you go. So south end there, and then going north to Pelican's Nest, and then just north of the Pelican's Nest is the former swing bridge embankment. That's kind of the northern limit. There you go, just to the left of the cursor there. That's the northern limit of the west side projects. And then the east side projects, pan north a little bit. So St. Paul Street ends at kind of a roundabout at Club Terrace. And our work encompasses everything from the lake to the Rochester Yacht Club property. So the St. Paul Street right of way the New York State DEC and city-owned fishing access site right on the river at the end of St. Paul Street. The Monroe County Sheriff's Office, or Monroe County Sheriff's Marine Unit, is just on the river at the end of St. Paul Street, and then going up to the US. That's those buildings right there in the center of the screen are the Monroe County Sheriff's Marine Unit headquarters. And then heading north, you can pan north a little bit. The parking lot that you see is the fishing access site. Just north of that is Silco Laughlin's restaurant, and then just to the north of there is the U.S. Coast Guard property. So our project goes all the way from the U.S. northern edge of the Coast Guard property all the way south to the Rochester Yacht Club. So if we can start with the plans for the west side, we can kind of walk you through those. Mike, you want to walk through?
Yes, I can. I can. So it looks like, Tom, would you like to drive, or would you like me to share my screen?
Oh, no, you can do that. Let me make you a co-host. All right, you should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, great. With me a second here. Oh, here we go.
Tom, do you have to take yours down? Stop sharing maybe?
Great idea. Okay, we're set now.
There we go.
Hey, can you, everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so what we have here, these are the 60% drawings, which are still in draft format, and we will be revising these and resubmitting them to the city within very short order. As Jeff noted, the project starts at the south end, at the end of Petton Street, and moves forward all the way to the north end of the Pelican's Nest. And it's just easy to refer to them. It's actually 560 River Street, or 566 River Street. So what we're doing along the shoreline in this area, heading from south to north, is we are adding additional riprap along the shoreline through this stretch to provide protection from wave action, and we're also going to be doing, trimming up the bank a little bit to make it more robust for higher water levels. Also, and this is something you'll see throughout a good part of the West Side project, is these floating docks, as designed, they have limited motion upwards and downwards. So we're going to be revising the struts attached to the docks so that they can move upwards and downwards as with the water level. And there'll be some minor work on these gangways, but that's not so much in the environmental side of things, but just a side note. So along this entire stretch here, Zone A and Zone B, is that feature of addressing the bank. All work will be above high water level. There's existing revetment there now. We'll be kind of cleaning that up and adding to that a bit. So pretty straightforward. And I can show you a section down a little further if you like. That feature will extend all the way up through Zone C. And as we're approaching right over here, this is Colonel Patton. I'm a Colonel Rourke Bridge. And so that features along Zone C. And then when you get up to zone D, which is underneath the bridge, there's an existing precast concrete wall that in 2019 was flooded. So the water was up over the wall. So our project is to raise this wall up. I believe it's no more than 2 feet. The concrete segments are, the segments are about 12 inches high, so they're easy to stack up segmentally in increments of 1 foot. And we'll be adjusting the grade, excuse me, the grade so that it's more, so that's uniform. And then underneath the bridge, there's going to be some more treatment here to ensure that there's no erosion. Right now, there's no grass will grow underneath the bridge, and there is some erosion, so we'll be addressing that as well. Moving north, zone E is the zone between the bridge and the existing marina area, and so we're going to be using the same treatment as to the south, revising the retin along the shoreline and cleaning up the shoreline, as well as some work on the docks so that they have a wider range of motion. Heading north though, up to this building here, this great area. This is actually the old Charlotte Charlotte Railroad Station, and it's a beautiful structure. And what we are planning to do is to install a curbing in front of the structure. And what's happening is this boardwalk is a little bit higher than the anticipated flood elevations. But when there's surge activity, water can come up on the boardwalk. So we're recommending that a curb being placed in front of the building, all above grade on existing concrete. There'll be some work on the boardwalk for access. So it's pretty straightforward. And then, again, moving north, this structure here, this is the boater support building. And same concept, that a curb will continue all the way along up through here, adjacent to on the west side of the boardwalk. And there will be openings in the curb to facilitate, pedestrian traffic back and forth between inland and the boardwalk. And those openings will be designed with stop logs so that when there are flood conditions, the openings can be filled for safety. Moving forward, moving north here. Actually, this section here is actually straddles 2 drawings, but I'll explain it on this drawing here. This is 504 River Street. It's an asphalt parking lot. And on the south side of that parking lot, we can show you can kind of see what's going on here. There's a small unofficial boat launch. There's a ramp that goes into the water at this point. And what we're proposing under this project is to install a sheet pile from the edge of the boardwalk moving north. And then this area behind the sheet pile will be filled in with granular material, and this whole area will be flat. And what that will do is, and by the way, the sheet pile, this continuous wall all the way along the front here, the elevation of that is going to be at 251.6, which is the 100-year flood elevation. And we've worked with the DEC to confirm that that's the appropriate design level for this project. But back to this area here at 504 River Street, sheet pile will be installed in the front on the riverside. And currently, right, what's there now is a series of cribbing, failed, deteriorated cribbing and metals, old metals, and that will be removed, and the wall will be constructed in the front here. And all sheet pile walls will have a cap on the top. This structure here, this is the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Building. It's a wooden structure. And in front of that is a robust dock that the Coast Guard uses. And in this area, we're installing a segmented concrete wall section here that squeezes in between the dock and the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary building. No damage to either structure. We're avoiding both. Then we're transitioning to a sheet pile wall that will move north to the border of the Charlotte pump station here. And this is city property here. And then we'll construct a concrete wall along the front. Actually, this wall will be a little more difficult to build. It's basically what's called a grade beam on piles. And the reason for that is that there's a significant amount of utilities that cross through here. So we have to, the structure has to be constructed such that there's no damage to the utilities. So there will be a piles driven in the ground and then the concrete wall constructed on top of that. And as we turn here to head west, there'll be a short concrete wall heading out to River Street. This property here is 560 to 566 River Street, and this is the Pelican's Nest restaurant, and this is their office building here. One other thing I'd like to note is there's a dock here that will be removed and not replaced, and then this area here will be graded out with revetment. So, from the river, as you look towards this structure, you'll see the top of a sheet pile wall with a concrete cap and revetment along the edge. And there are two pump stations that will be part of this project. So if you, by the way, any questions so far?
Nope.
Okay, great. Just, if there are any questions, please, please jump in. This is a drawing that shows the curb along the front of the railroad station and then the boater support building. So it's pretty straightforward. It's an 8-inch high curb, so it's really not much to it. But I just would like to show a little more detail in the pump stations here. So we are also, excuse me, also included with this project is, so we've got the ability to stop the water from coming in from Riverside. But what will still occur is that we're going to have water ponding in this low spot here on River Street. And that's due to a couple different reasons, primarily because the storm drains in this area will be submerged and not as effective when the water level is high. So at this point, we have 2 pump stations planned. These are submersible pump stations. This is pump station 1 and pump station 2. And the purpose of these pump stations is to provide the energy to move the water from the storm system out to the river and keep the street dry. And currently, we are reevaluating what this pump station 1 will look like. It will likely change and be reduced in scope and size, but we will still keep this. This is a new outfall here. This outfall will remain as a stormwater outfall. Over here on pump station 2, there will be a new outfall traveling the location. There's an existing outfall here, so it's basically replacing kind, and a new submersible pump station in this area. So these are concrete chambers that be built into the ground. The precast concrete chambers dropped in the ground, so they'll be right at grade. So be very little visibility.
I have a question. What type of power is going to run the pump stations? Is it electricity?
Oh, yes, that's a great question. Yes, these will have permanent electric power, and we are currently, again, we're evaluating what this looks like. So the permanent power will maybe less intrusive than we're looking at today. Over here in pump station number 2, it's next to this Monroe County wastewater pump station, the Charlotte pump station. And we are working with Monroe County to see if we can have a direct electrical connection from this pump station to our proposed pump stations. And then the beauty of that is that this county facility has permanent backup power to it. So that will, further reduce the extent of our project, and that we wouldn't have to provide any provisions for standby power. And also, just to note one more thing here, we're still working on options in this area to match grade so that we can contain the water in this area, so that it can be removed out of the street efficiently. So there's some site work that we're still working on in this area, but it's not, in our opinion, it's nothing obtrusive, and it doesn't, there won't be any extent moving out into the waterway. So that's in a nutshell what we're looking at here. I can, if there's interest, I can go through some sections and give you an idea what the what the wall sections will look like from the riverside.
What is the cost?
What is the cost? That is a good question. It's about $3.25 million, about $3.25 million for the West Side project.
And did anybody evaluate the benefit? Like, how much is this going to benefit in dollars the city?
That was not part of our exercise. We know there was flooding on River Street. We know there was flooding on these properties, and then we know there was damage to, the floating docks and, the support system for the docks, the electrical connections supporting the docks, all that.
Well, how much money does the city make on these docks? Like, do they rent out the space?
Yeah, so everything from, so the asphalt parking lot that has the boat slip in it, everything south is the City of Rochester's public marina, or is City of Rochester Marina. So all those slips are leased. They're operated by Gibbs Marine under agreement with the city. They don't necessarily have, the revenue that's generated from his operation of the marina.
Was there an analysis of what would happen if we didn't do the project? Like, what would be the damage in cost, in loss for the city?
It was never part of the mandate of the grant to quantify those costs. After, like I said, after the second round of high water events in 2019, the state moved pretty quick to enact this program, and their application process was, basically propose projects and submit them. There wasn't any requirement for that kind of cost benefit analysis. So we didn't necessarily conduct that cost benefit analysis.
It sounds like it was a statewide grant program, right? Not just for our area. Yeah.
Yep, it's for any properties, any municipal owned properties along the shoreline or tributaries to Lake Ontario that were affected by those high water levels.
Right.
So under the READY program, it is it's a competitive process. Sure. And several hundred projects were identified for inclusion in the program. Mm-hmm. And the state ultimately selected 135 for funding. Nice. And as part of the process, so READY, I'm sure most of you have heard this already, but READY is the acronym for Resiliency and Economic Development Initiative. So the focus of the program is to provide, number one, provide resiliency so that public assets are protected and they're not damaged, and then also the economic part of it. So with this particular project, the primary economic benefit will be enhanced use of the docks and
Right.
the city-owned docks. And Jeff, I may have this number wrong, but I believe is there 72 slips, 72 or 96, somewhere in there.
I think it's 72 range.
Yeah.
So 72 boat owners benefit
Well,
from the 3
Elizabeth, I
million?
know it's been a while since we've met, but our charge is not to get into the financial aspect. We're environmental. So
Yeah,
I
but
understand your questions, but the grant has been awarded, and it's not really our authority to question whether or not the receipt of the grant is appropriate. That's a done deal, and that's not something in our purview. What we're looking at is the environmental aspect of this and how it affects the environment of the area. That's what our purview is. So I appreciate your questions. I think they're very valid, but unfortunately they don't fall under the purview of this commission.
Mhm.
So I
Okay.
hope you can understand that.
Yeah, I understand.
And also one thing to consider, I'm familiar with the non-municipal projects for this kind of thing in around the Coit Bay. This is erosion protection and about not losing land to and that is critical because once you lose it, you don't get it back.
Right, exactly.
And that's
Yeah,
the
but
underlying impetus behind.
environmentally, you lose land, you gain river. I mean, it's depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
And I think it might even be part of a larger scale initiative that's happening not only in our area and in New York State, but nationwide on shorelines to protect our shores, because all waters are rising. And like Carlos said, once they're lost, they're lost. So this is part of a even bigger project nationwide than just what's happening in Rochester. And the fact that there was review of the grant process and we were awarded this grant out of a large number of applicants, I think speaks to the validity of doing this kind of work. And it looks like it's pretty well planned out. I mean, I'm sure we'll all have questions as we move through the presentation, but I think to try to break it down to, what's the advantage financially to the individual boat owners, I think that that's not really the question to look at right now. It's more of protecting the shoreline, enhancing it and upgrading it so that everyone in our area will still have access to it, whether they have a boat or not, and that we won't lose shoreline, but we'll protect it for future generations.
And I think a big piece of the recognition from the state and why they created the program was that, they saw that year after year impact from high waters, and, they were doling out emergency relief money to shoreline property owners year after year to, stem damage and bring in emergency sandbagging and water barricades. And I think the realization was that, we can do this every time this happens. It could be every year, it could be every other year. We're not really sure. Or we can, do a large grand project across the state that really hopefully addresses these problems in a more permanent fashion with one
and be more
big
proactive.
outlay and be more proactive.
Yes, or but there's the argument we could also not do it, and let the wetlands take over or push everything back or buy out the property owners or whatever. I mean, it's not the only option.
True, but the decision's been made, the money's been awarded, so our responsibility is to look at how the project has been designed, the impact on the environment, and what recommendations we have and what decision we're going to make about the proposal.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, let's continue with the presentation.
Okay.
All right. Tell you what, if everybody's all right, if you don't mind, I'll jump to the east side and we can go.
Does anybody have any questions about the west side before we move to east?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Let's move.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. If you think of anything, we can easily jump back and look at
Okay.
sections or whatever might be needed.
Thank you.
Okay, east side. All right. I had this queued up earlier, so Okay, so as Jeff noted earlier, the East Side project starts at the project boundary starts at the edge of the Rochester Yacht Club. So this right here is the city Rochester Yacht Club border. This is St. Paul right here. This is the turnaround. And in 2019, there was a porta dam installed all the way along this front here to keep water out of this area. So this area floods, and when it floods, excuse me, when it floods, this road is covered. So this road is not usable. There's the Monroe County Sheriff building here is in jeopardy. And then there's also a town of Irondequoit pump station, wastewater pump station down here that's impacted as well, and that's part of the project. But going north here, we're proposing a wall along the edge of the edge of the water here, and it'll be set back a little bit from the water's edge. And then this area over here, this is the New York State fishing access. So this is a very popular fishing area, and we're proposing to do some work over here to raise up the slab, raise up the deck a little bit, so that it's it won't flood during I would say 99% of the conditions. And then we'll be revising the wall. There's an existing wall here, so we'll be revising that a bit. So if there is any flooding, it'll be contained by this wall, and still allow people use of this area. And then I'll get to this in a moment with another drawing, but there will be a pump station in this area, because as this area floods, stormwater cannot evacuate. So there'll be a pump station to move flow out to the river. Moving north,
Just ask a couple questions about the wall before you go
Oh,
forward.
yes, please. Please.
What's where the wall is right now? What is that?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
Nothing. Yep.
So
Yep. So what's along here is it's a sheet pile wall all the way along the perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
And in some areas, the sheet pile has concrete just up to the edge of it. So if you look at it, you see the concrete and steel attached. And in some areas, there's a concrete cap. But currently, there's no protection at this point, no protection against flooding at this point.
Okay. So is the wall designed to simply be a barrier? I mean, will it cut off public access to that area?
Well, that's a great question. Yes, this wall is designed as a barrier, and there are openings. This area here is for the sheriff use only,
Okay.
but we'll be working with them to put openings in the right spot. They've also indicated the possibility of maybe a short set of stairs up and over, so that they have ability to get out to their docks where the boats are located. But over here. That's a really great question. So over here, there's a fence along the edge here.
Okay.
And this is all public property here. So public can use all this property now. It's open 24 hours a day. And this flood wall will have openings in it so that people will still be able to use that property. As water rises, the public will still have access to this area here for fishing. This area here could get a little wet, but they'll still have access to this area here. As water gets really high up to flood elevation, stop logs are being put in place, so public will not have access beyond this wall here.
Okay. So the wall won't be designed so that people could go up onto the wall and there could be benches and people could fish off of there? I mean, was there ever any discussions about any of that? Would that be plausible at all?
There's been, believe it or not, there's a lot of discussion with the DEC
Okay.
on access and fishing access. So we came up with a solution here to allow this area here to be used by anybody by the public under most conditions until the floodwaters are really high. There are a series of benches already in place around. You may not be able to see, but there's benches here. And by all means, this wall is set up so you can sit on it.
Okay.
And so we put a lot of thought into the height of the wall. Initially at the beginning of the READY program, this wall was, I think it was a good 4 feet high, and and it was located up against the edge of the water, and that created some questions about access and visual as well. So we're able to modify that substantially, and this existing wall will be increased by, I think it's 6 or 8 inches. So it's really going to be no difference, visually to what you have now.
Okay. All right, good.
Okay, and then so this area shows that that feature as well. This property here, this is a private property. This is Silko Laughlin's restaurant, and they have constructed a wall in front of their facility right here, shortly after the flooding of 2019. And so our project will include connectivity of that wall to our system. It's not shown in here in bold, but this will be connected for consistent flood protection through here. We'll do the same going around the corner up to this existing wall on U.S. Coast Guard property, which then heads up to over in this area is where the pier is going out into the lake. At the request of the U.S. Coast Guard, we have included filling in. There's an existing slip here that the Coast Guard has in their plans to not use anymore. It's outlived their use due to ship, boat size and whatnot. So they've requested that as part of this project, this slip be filled in. It's a project they're going to do anyways, and they have some funding that they can help with this project. So what this will consist of is installation of sheet piling along the river, and a second set of sheet piling inland a bit for structural purposes to hold the whole thing together. And this will be backfilled with granular material, and then the surface will be paved or concrete to match existing. This infrastructure here is revision to the stormwater infrastructure, and there will be a temporary pumping arrangement here if the Coast Guard, when floodwaters do come up, if they do have issues, they'll have the ability to put in a temporary pump and evacuate any water that might build up in this surface here. And lastly, on the north side of the site, there's going to be a small earthen dike up to elevation 252 to hold back any water that might be pushing from the north. And we're working on the connectivity down here as well, so it'll be continuous with this structure. So that's in a nutshell. I will, if you just bear with me a minute, I'll jump over to the pump station here. Increase this a little bit so that's a little easier to see. Along the south side of the site, we're also adding some small grading improvements along the south side of the site to keep this area, to further protect this area from water flow from the south. And then, as I noted earlier, there will be a submersible pump station in the grassy space within the circle here, and a new force main. I believe it's a 16-inch force main that will run out to the river and will discharge the stormwater into the river at this point to this submerged pipe diffuser setup. And lastly, down here, just south of that area slightly, is the existing Somerville pump station. Somerville wastewater pump station. It's owned and operated by the town of Arundecoit. And we will be doing some flood protection improvements to the structure, as well as replacing the pumping system so that it'll be more efficient during flood levels. And that'll be a great improvement, because as floodwaters come up, there's the risk of basements being affected by water backing up into basements. So these pumping improvements will greatly benefit that situation. So it's a quick presentation. Any questions on the East Side project?
Did I see something in the project description, something about endangered species? Was that mentioned in there, or was that something else I was reading?
There's potential for, depending on DEC feedback, we might have to do some mussel survey and relocation.
Okay.
And I think the primary area on the east side would be where the slip is being filled in.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's consistent with the Erie Harbor project as well, right? You had the same.
Correct.
Did they?
Yeah,
Okay.
West River Wall had to do it, East River, Erie Harbor.
I sent a
Enhancements phase
message
2.
to Mabel earlier stating that. Sorry.
Yeah, and this is
Sorry,
Kyle.
I thought I was muted.
Oh, sorry, secondary conversation. Okay, that's fine. That happens. So I'm curious too, when you do backfill, like the backfill that you're going to do for the Coast Guard, where does the fill come from that you're putting in there? Like where?
That is well, there's actually, if I can find the drawing, I'll give you a little tour, but I'll talk as we get to it. There's going to be 2 levels of fill.
Okay.
So this is a section through that area. So you've got the riverside here, and from a constructability standpoint, our structural engineers are recommending that the first part of the fill be flowable fill, which is it's a very low strength concrete. And what it does is it seeks its own level, and it provides a good working surface. So we'll place some select fill. Some flowable fill. There's a lot of concrete suppliers provide this. I know Manitou is a company we've used in the past. Down here in Henrietta. And then beyond and above that would be compacted select fill. So that would come from this compacted granular fill will come from whatever supplier the contractor is using. So, there's several pits around, and if the city has a preferred location, then we can direct the contractor to that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, this is Kyle. I apologize. I was a little slow on the mute button there, but I wanted to piggyback on the mussel discussion. Just what Jeff said. The good news is that the DEC is going to allow us to conduct both the survey and the relocation effort concurrently. A lot of times they require one to be done, then there's a lag, but they're going to allow that to occur concurrently, which should save us some time.
So that'll be, and Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's focused on the east side at the slip fill location, and then on the west side, wherever we're doing sheet piling or a new wall on the river, correct?
Exactly. Yep.
And Jeff, if you recall, originally the project included installation of piles to hold the docks, and if that. And then we switched to, we evaluated that, and we decided that it's going to be a lot of undue effort, and we were able to go back to modifying the existing dock struts. So if we're going to implement the piles, which would be probably about every 30 to 40 feet along the docks, we may have had to do some work. Some zebra mussel work. Some mussel survey work there, but we're able to mitigate that issue by choosing an above water solution.
And will all this concrete that you're putting into this project, will that have any impact on the water quality at all?
No.
Okay, all right.
So
No,
just so,
Go ahead, Jeff.
just so everybody's aware, we've had basically since mid-December, we have had a meeting every other week with basically a commission, including all the New York State Ready folks, New York State Department of State, New York State DEC, numerous people from all different departments in DEC, DASNY, which is the funding's coming through, DOS, who's overseeing the design. We've had some, county, town, plenty of city folks online of all different departments, sometimes Coast Guard, sometimes sheriffs, Marine unit, some of the players come and go, but all the different state agencies involved in review and approval of permitting and all that level. We've had bi-weekly meetings since mid-December.
Okay.
And just to kind of walk through every phase of the project so there's no surprises when they get
Sure.
permitting. We've also had meetings with the Coast Guard to keep them appraised of the work and to make sure we're doing what they want to do. So it's been a pretty intensive process with all the different players and partners involved.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and they'll have a chance to review it, the involved agencies, for water quality certification and Clean Water Act. Everything's going to have to be done in accordance with those regulations. So they'll have a chance to review that.
It's part of the joint permitting process.
Exactly.
Does anybody on the commission have any further questions?
I just have one on excavation. I read in the EAF that either one side or both sides of the river in that area had some contamination in the past, landfills and whatnot, and everything has been remediated from what I read.
Yep, that is correct. And we have drafted a site management plan for both sides of the river. And what's been holding us back on completing that is we wanted to advance the design so that we knew the volume of material that we would have to deal with. And then when we put together that, when we wrap up that SMP, it'll have guidance as to where the material would go, how it's handled on site, any additional testing that's required.
So
Sorry, Jeff.
Go ahead.
Let me just close the loop on that. When you do the environmental assessment form, you use the DEC's mapper tool, and their database feeds into that. So, if there was a past spill or contamination in a particular property, that's going to automatically pop up, whether it's been cleaned up or not. So, I think that's an artifact of that system.
Yeah, and where I was going with the question was, it said that if any contamination was encountered, it would be either you would know about it, or if you were dredging or excavating, you would either know that by odors or a sheen in the water. And I was wondering who makes the call on that, or do they take a timeout, or?
Yeah, basically. So the site management plan, we'll coordinate that through our Department of Environmental Quality, Ann Spalding and Joe Biondolillo, for as long as he's here before he retires. But we'll coordinate the site management plan. They'll review that and sign off and approve that before we're done. And basically it establishes the framework for how you deal with anything if it's encountered on site. And then we will have somebody out there observing construction, resident project representation or construction inspector out there on site, observing everything that happens, and they'll be able to refer to the, the site manual, that tells them what they have to do if anything is encountered. So basically it is a timeout as they, as they figure out how to address whatever they might find. They might have to do additional testing,
Sure. It's standard procedure, and I was just wanted to make sure that, even though it's been remediated, you can hit a pocket of something that nobody knew about. The question is, what do you do if that happens, even though it's not expected?
Right.
So it sounds like you've got a plan in place.
Yeah, the one
Sensitive area like that, that sounds fine to me.
Yeah, I would say the one known area of potential concern is on the west side, north of the Boater Services building, where the CSX train derailed a number of years ago. CSX has a management plan in place for that site. And as part of our final approvals, we're required to send them our plans for them to review. And, they basically review it against their cleanup objectives and, their impacted area. And they either tell us that, one, our project will have no impact, two, it'll have minimal impact that we don't have to worry about, or we'll have to coordinate with them and, figure out how we address any impacts that might occur to that area. So that's part of our process going forward once we get our designs 60% or more.
Okay, that's the only question I had.
Anyone else? Any questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate your time and all your hard work to pull this project together. And thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So Tom, we can leave now, I assume, so you guys can deliberate?
Yep, the board will deliberate, and I can email you when we're done to let you know what the recommendation is.
All right, thank you all again.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so here we are. So do we want to have any discussion about this project before we have a motion on it, or do we just want to move to a motion?
I'll motion.
Okay.
Motion for a neg deck.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. In the camera. Okay.
You can't see
All
my
those
hand, but it's
opposed?
raised.
Okay, anyone abstaining? Okay, all right. So it's passed then, correct? The motion is passed?
3-1, and we kind of reviewed them together. They're doing the projects separately, but I think we can treat this as
one?
You guys were voting as one
Okay, that
project.
seems reasonable, yeah. Does anybody have any comments or any recommendations that that we want Tom to include along with the results of our motion? No? Okay.
Wait, I do.
Oh, no,
I do want to say something. I just feel like it's a bunch of man-made structures built to protect man-made structures from nature, and we're an environmental commission.
Right.
And, we could just keep building walls higher and higher and higher, uglier and uglier, or we could come up with a different solution to these problems. And there are other things we can do. So that's why I'm against the project.
No, that's fine. And I think your questions were very valid. It's just unfortunately, they don't fall under the purview of this commission. If they did, we could have in-depth discussions about that. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're bringing out things that have the social implications of, there are businesses there, there's people that live there, there's all kinds of, it's a river in a city. I understand your point.
Right.
And in many cases, I might agree with you, but
Right.
it's like Rosemary said, that's not what we're here to do.
Right. Okay. So are we all set then? Anything else we need to do?
Nope.
Okay, Tom, does it look like we might have anything for next month? Is it too soon to tell?
Too soon to tell. I don't have anything
Okay.
pending, but I'll keep everybody posted if we do.
Okay, all right, great. Well, thank you all very much and have a great summer and hope to see you again before the new year.
Yeah.